Hey everybody, welcome to Office Hours. So we have some channel news as well as some comment responses from last week's video on gas stations and game theory. So we're going to go and do the comment responses first and then move into the channel news, all of which I am just super excited about and I cannot wait to share it with you. But first, comment responses. Let's do it. Ashley Flynn asked if we can understand the placement of car dealerships as well as gas stations using game theory, and absolutely we can. As many of us know from personal experience, right? You find one gas station, go down the road, you're just going to find another, and another, and another, and another ad, both nauseum and infinitum. So that's the sort of a thing that is there. And absolutely, yes, the clustering effect that we find in terms of the physical locations is due to, in part, them trying to optimize based on the available pool of demand, right, where people want to buy cars. But car dealerships are kind of special. See, with the gas station example, their gas is what's called a first order good. It's something that people buy fairly often, so it doesn't necessarily have the same sort of demands placed on it as something called a second order good, which includes car dealerships. And the second order good is differentiated by a first order good in that they're more expensive and we don't tend to buy as many over the course of our lives, maybe just a handful, very rarely less than 10. So like mattresses is another good example of a second order good. And these goods, because they are so rare, tend to require some sort of speciality. They require a specialist pool of labor or maintenance or something to that degree, which is why you also will find a whole bunch of mechanics by car dealerships, because all of these areas are trying to tap into a local cluster of expertise in that area. So that's part of, so yes, the trying to optimize based off of the ability to sell things is a huge part of why car dealerships are next to each other, but also a huge ability for them to be able to get a supply of employees, which again, employment and that sort of thing is also part of the supply and demand equilibrium. So the short answer is yes, but the long answer, or not really the long answer, but I guess the medium answer would be yes, and then some. There's also a really good episode on this that dealt with mattresses made by Freakonomics Radio. I will put the description for this down for anyone who's interested in the doodly-doo. I highly recommend listening to it. It's fantastic. Stephanie Yu asked a fantastic question, not just saying that from any possible source of bias there. She asks whether or not if we are building a gas station, if it's smarter for us to place one next to a pre-existing one or to put one on an otherwise unoccupied stretch of road. And the short answer to this is, after weeks of thinking about it, I honestly have no idea. Not a clue. The long answer is that this just relies on so many variables. So the video implies that it always is more rational for these. The long answer is there's just so many variables at play here. The video implies that it's always more rational for gas stations to be right next to each other, right? That seems to be kind of what it's getting at, but it's actually a little more subtle than that. What it's saying is that, they're right next to each other because they're dividing a pool of supply right down the middle such that, they won't be able to move without any sort of reciprocating action causing to bite them in the butt. So, that's why it seems that it's better for them to be placed there. So we really don't know if it'd be smarter to put a gas station next to a pre-existing one or one another occupied stretch of road, because we don't know what the population density is of the surrounding area. But let's say, for instance, we have a gas station right here, would it be better to place it right next to it, or would it be better to place it, in an unoccupied stretch? And I think it would be better to place it right here in this unoccupied stretch. And the reason is because then you are getting the people within this area here, you're also getting the people within this area here, while this pre-existing station is now getting this area over here. And so it's really, and then there's a, the longer answer is that there's just so many variables that come into play here. So the video made this sort of, the longer answer is that there's just so many variables that come into play here. So I can see how people could look at the video and think that it's implying that it's always smarter for gas stations to be placed right next to each other. But the reality is that it's only rational for them to be placed next to each other when, they're the same price and when they are subdividing a population. And the reason is that way they have equal access to the supply, because any movement could be countered by another movement by the other party, such a way that would make it detrimental in the long run. Now, here's the thing though. with gas stations. It's one of those subtle things that once it's said aloud is totally obvious. When was the last time anyone saw a gas station up and move, right? Like, obviously gas stations do not just up and go to the place that's smarter for them to be at any given point. They don't have that sort of mobility. When I first heard this game presented to me, when I first heard about this game, it was presented to me in the case of, I think, like ice cream vendors, going up and down Miami Beach. So that just makes way more sense, right? Because an ice cream vendor can move from place to place. So what this game is depending on is people taking multiple steps, is the ownership of these gas stations, taking those steps and in thinking, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, infinity steps ahead to try to figure out what the opponent, or not the opponent, but what the competition is going to do next. So that's really what's going on here. And with Stephanie's case, we have to now do this as well, just with not as many variables at play. Because now we have to just make one move in such a way that we have to counter them not moving, but also counter any new inclusions into the game. Because what we did in this example was very simplified, right? It was 2-dimensional and 2 stations. But what happens when you add a next dimension, or if you add multiple stations, it just gets super, super complicated. But to keep it simple, let's just say that we have a gas station that pre-exists over here, and there's the population that it supplies, and then there's all these people over here. Would it be smarter to put it next to them, or would it be smarter to place it on an otherwise empty stretch? And it is smarter to put it here. And the reason is because now you're getting these people, well, this guy is getting some of these and all of these. And this is a robust place for you to be, or this is a robust place for you to be, rather, because if a third person comes in, the worst they could do is, kind of mess you up a smidge, but they're not going to be able, no one person is going to be able to take away your dominion, your share of the market is not going to be able, you're not going to be able to go from first to last in a single move. So it's the most robust place for you to be should further actors enter the situation. So yeah, it all depends on where the otherwise empty stretch of road is and where the other person is. So again, don't know, but in that particular hypothetical, you should put it in the empty stretch. The Good News channel, which is an up and starting YouTube channel, one that is, as its name implies, is dedicated to spreading good news that we wouldn't otherwise hear with the more popular sources of information and news. I highly recommend checking them out. When I asked if people could think of other examples where things that were seemingly irrational could be explained by game theory or by rational choice, they brought up the example of restaurants or fast food chains. And absolutely, these are, another really good way to understand and explain how game theory operates. You can use restaurants, you can use fast food operations and such of that nature. It's all really fascinating how it can really just explain a lot of things that we see in our day-to-day lives. So yeah, absolutely great example. So channel news. All right, so first things first, I have moved. I am no longer in my old apartment. I'm actually in a new place with a dedicated office where I will be able to zero in and focus on producing more videos on the new production schedule, which more on that in a minute. And with this new space also comes some new equipment. So coming in the mail in a couple of days is a new microphone, one that will enable me to replace the lapel ones that I've used previously, as well as the microphones that are implanted in my camera or in my phone. And speaking of which, I am actually getting a new phone and therefore a new camera as well, and I am super excited for that. I noticed when I was turning on the phone today, I was just like, oh man, this this fuzziness, this noise, I'm not a huge fan of it, because I love presenting our social world and how awesome and how beautiful it is, and I cannot wait to be able to have the equipment to be able to present that in a way that is crisp and visually and aesthetically pleasing. And I'm just so excited that the channel has progressed to where we're able to get that sort of stuff and be able to improve this way. So yeah, very exciting. New space and new equipment. That's, yes, awesome. Second bit of news, I just alluded to a little bit ago. There is going to be a new production schedule. Now, you may have noticed that I just completely fell off the face of the earth for 2 months, and I apologize for that. That was a confluence of factors. I was working on 2 research papers. I'm still working on 2 research papers. They kind of need to get done. I should have probably doing that instead of filming this. But anyways, so I have 2 research papers. I was at the University of Michigan for a month at ICPSR, which a friend of mine aptly called Nerd Camp, which I was at Nerd Camp for a month. As a matter of fact, I actually had this awesome certificate up on the wall that said I went to Nerd Camp. I wish it legitimately said I went to Nerd Camp. I actually, complained and said that they should put that on the certificate. The lady said she would try. I'm assuming that effort wasn't fruitful. Instead of being able to produce videos, is I laid the groundwork to be able to produce videos every other week. So like I said in the beginning of the summer, I was hoping to be able to do this, and it looks like I will be able to. So office hours will occur every other week, and so will regular videos. So we have regular video, office hour, regular video. So that means 4 videos in a month. Can you believe it? I mean, like, went from 1 every month to like 4 every month. And I am just so excited. This has been Office Hours. Thank you guys so much for your comments and for your replies. And I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with next in the subsequent videos. So, as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.